he never tried to change anyone into something different. He never tried to convince or to persuade anyone to conduct like him, or to do a given gesture, or to have a special technique, but to transmit to the orchestra the score in a very precise, straight and clear way. That was the main, I would say, like the 80% of the let's say the focus of his lessons was always on the score and how to transmit in the most perfect and intense and pure way the content of the score. So this sounds quite simple, and that it sounds quite obvious also, but it's actually a very big deal. His main concern was always about leaving space to the music, leaving space to the score, not overdo. To do it always reduce, condensed and focus, because in his opinion, his thought, conducting, and I completely agree, conducting technique it's very rudimentary, it's very basic, it's nothing too complicated. It's, I mean, and you can see in himself. So his repertoire of movements, even in the most difficult and complex scores, is really simple. It's nothing that in principle it's very very appealing visually. It's really, you can see it's always in this gesture, in this picture. It's a perfect resume of the way he was conducting. He always trying to keep it very clear, very visual, in contact with his own face, his own eyes, and never using a baton. And when the technique was clear enough to see where is the impulse, where is the 1, where is the 3, and some basic signals with the left hand, that's it. That's everything. But of course, everything comes from here. And this is something that when talking, I've been talking with musicians a lot. I've been talking a lot with musicians of orchestras. He was a regular conductor, like in Chicago Symphony recently. And they all have very, very fresh in their memories when Boulez, in the last decade or 2 decades, was a regular conductor. They all remember the intensity and the so clear way he communicated and transmitted the score. That's what a musician wants in the first instant. And nobody like him was so clear in that mission. He was never giving a great quote or patronizing or giving big solutions, but you could take, if you're intelligent enough, or if you are with him, what are the lessons to take from that? And you could. He would never say that. He would never talk about the freedom to the orchestra, but of course, in his way of conducting and in his process, that what he demanded to us, as students, and to the orchestra, when you give the orchestra the feeling that everything is under control, so we know that what we are talking about, we are playing about, and don't try to invade more or to be more invasive, let's say, the music flows. And in his way of conducting, he was very clearly doing that. He was present, but never too much. He was doing everything that the musician needed to help to put together his part together with the orchestra, but never trying to disturb your discourse, because everyone is a musician. Everyone have more or less notions about a given phrasing or a given tone, color, etc. And in the end, I think maybe it's too simplistic, but I I think it's the same with all kinds of repertoire. Maybe now we are talking about some complex scores and let's say a more modern language, but I think this is you can translate it, you can transpose that to any music. I've never heard him talking about contemporary music or modern music. I mean, with those labels, never. I mean, by coincidence, of course, when I worked, as I said before, in formal lessons, we worked on Stockhausen, and then we worked also on Stravinsky. But then afterwards, in the following 8 years, I've been in close contact with him. We've been talking just about music, and at every level, from the conducting point of view, but also from the, let's say, more compositional, philosophical. It's about music. Yes, especially with his own music. We work a lot on. I've been lucky enough to have him at my side when I've been conducting his music, and many times he would just show little example about how to beat some complex bars, some subdivisions, or etc. And he always would show it in a very precise and clear way, always asking to reduce and to focus the gesture as much as you can. When you try to show too much, you just show less, show smaller, but more precisely. Always. And also your gesture, being little, being small, being condensed, also needs to show exactly and precisely what is inside the music. You don't need to make any much more arabesque or fantasy, but in every little moment, if the music, inside the music, there's a given pulsation, color, electricity, or souplesse, everything would be there. And yes, I remember many examples, and I remember in London, I was conducting the Royal Academy Ensemble. He was given an honorary doctorate, and he advanced his travel to London. He was in Aldborough, and he took a car because he wanted to be in our rehearsal. We were doing Dérive 1 and Mémorial, Explosion Fixe. And he called saying, "No, I want to be the rehearsal," and we were a group of students of Royal Academy and I, and of course he was sitting there and he was giving some advice to the students, but also to me being in charge, being the conductor. But he was sitting there, and of course I was given a master class of conducting, and I was at that time I was conducting Rigoletto in Cardiff, and I was doing other things, but he would never hesitate, never to give an advice and to stop and to, because he knew he could, of course. And a couple of years ago in Lucerne, when I had to conduct 2 big programs including lots of his music, but also Webern, Bartók, Berg, Berio. He was sitting. That was one of the most intense and busy times of my professional life, but also the most happy ones to have him there. And of course he was always very generous, and he would never hesitate to give an advice, a good advice, but always in the same direction. Focus, also contention to let the music speak. Don't impose yourself to the music. The Lucerne Festival Academy has been probably the most important project of his last years. He's invested himself so much into the academy as a composer, as a conductor, as a teacher, as a human being. He's been always investing all day, every single day, of the academy period in teaching, but also in being in contact with musicians, with the young musicians. And he would never refuse a conversation, a question, and he loved to be in every rehearsal, not only in the academy, but every visiting orchestra ensemble. He wanted to go and meet the artists and be in the rehearsal and be in the concert, and that for him was something that was giving him so much energy and so much happiness. So that the fact that after a rehearsal he would discuss with a given instrumentalist, a musician, about a certain passage or a certain technique, or made him extremely young and vital. He's not interested in anything banal or trivial or routine. You'll never have a conversation about the weather or about. It doesn't mean that he is someone. He's someone too serious, or his lack of humor, or he doesn't. He's not, on the contrary. He loves joking. He loves spending time, and I've shared with him lots of dinners or lunch, and he's the most generous and vital partner in such a context. But he's not interested just in talking or filling the time. So it's about, I mean, he's curious all the time. He needs to have a direction in what you, at every moment you share with him.